Indian Psychoanalytical Society, and she's also a training analyst from the Indian Psychoanalytical Society and a co-chair for Allied Centers of International New Groups, IPL London. And she's been teaching in different universities under the Deanery of Humanities and Social Sciences, and a very well-known psychoanalyst and a trainer. So today she will be talking about dreams, dream interpretation, analysis. So the program is going to be like this. She will introduce the concept first, and we'll open the floor for discussion. We have already received a couple of questions. We'll take up those questions first, and after that, it will be open for the open to the audience. And you just need to raise your hand or write your questions in this chat box. We'll take it up after that. Welcome, Dr. Jhuma, to this program, and welcome you all to this program. Over to you, Dr. Jhuma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ginny, and to all the participants here, and for organizing this and being with us this evening. Just a few words before we can make it more interactive. I think we just have 1 hour, which is absolutely nothing considering and the scope for discussing on dreams. Also, I am very apprehensive of big numbers, that too online, and that too about dreams. So Ginny knows that pretty well about me. We've had the opportunity of working closely in earlier occasions. Just a few lines on dreams from the school of thought that I come from at a very general level, because I understand, as was shared by the organizers, that most of the participants are part of the student community, and some, of course, professional practitioners community. So psychoanalytically, we see dreams as a creation, as a creative process in the pre-conscious state, as most of us here know that according to the psychoanalytic model, we have the conscious state of mind, and then we have the pre-conscious state of mind, and we have the unconscious state of mind. And it is usually in the pre-conscious state of mind that the dream creative process happens. And it is also the capacity of the internal mechanism of the individual who has, let's say, the potential of working with material that one is probably stored up unconsciously in the unconscious, but can get stirred by situations or events from the conscious. So there is a kind of, let's say, knock happening from the top level, and there is a lot of material at the bottom level, and both together do a concoction at the mid-level. And that's when our creative process of dreams take place. Of course, this is trying to make it at a very simple understanding so that we can all be engaged in this similar thought process. So that's how dreams are created in a very, very, let's say, layman's expression. And today's discussion, we are talking about dreams. Of course, when we talk about dreams, nightmares may come out. And because we've all gone through a very difficult and challenging time in the last 2 years, there is a wide range of possibilities to talk about dreams, the content, the material, what it did to us emotionally. And it is also, when we talk about the capacity of the internal mind, the mental mind, the mental capacity, when we talk about to create dreams, it's very creative, it's very dynamic, almost like a child probably. And this quality of, as we would say, the quality of the infantile to play around helps us to create dreams. Of course, when we talk about nightmares, it's a different way of looking at this playful quality, which still has the capacity, this symbolic capacity, the potential of the mental mechanism has that symbolic capacity, but which probably gets apprehended by reality stimulation, by other kinds of juxtaposition and interaction in our daily life. So with that brief note, I think it'll be nice if we try to get into a conversation and see where it leads us, as Dr. Ginny said. So yeah, okay, Ginny, how would you like to, yeah?
So Dr. Jhuma, so when Freud came up with this concept of dream symbols and dream interpretation process, and then moved to Neo-Freudians or now the postmodern psychoanalytical frame, do they see dream interpretation in the same way, the way Freud looked at, or what are the differences came up in the recent time?
Well, I'll try to respond to it to the best of my understanding. But as we all understand who are here, is that it will probably none of the responses will be an exhaustive response, but I'll try to touch upon it. Dreams continue to be a very important aspect in the psychoanalytic school of thought, because they carry, in a symbolic way, they carry the content of the unconscious material that we have. And as I just explained a while back, that the symbolic element of our unconscious material, our reality, our conscious state, finds a way of working through and giving expression to dreams in a pre-conscious state, which usually is what we experience when we are sleeping. Now, to touch upon the way Freud saw it, I think the whole psychoanalytic school of thought has gone through its evolutionary stages in every aspect of it, from Freud to the contemporary times. And naturally, the dream quality has also found its same evolutionary state. Today, when we are talking about dreams, we are aware of a lot of change of cultural symbols, a lot of political associations, individual associations vary. We see a lot of symbolic representational changes in gender in society, and all of that comprises an individual's journey in creating dreams. So something that we may have read or have come across, that Jung's working a lot with, the collective unconscious, the symbols of mythological symbols. I think today's time, today's way of, at least my understanding of looking at a dream or psychoanalytic evolutionary pathway, it is not I would say conducive to look at a very, very compartmentalized way of treating a school of thought or the evolution of a thought process. So to be able to understand an individual's journey through society, culture, changes in gender, sexuality, political systems, it is important to be able to look at an individual associations, mental associations, along with a collective journey, collective trajectory. So I think this is a very important aspect of developmental perspective in today's practice of psychoanalysis, an effort towards an integrated way of looking at reading symbols. And so, of course, once again, to go into exactly what have been the differences, I think that would probably take us a very, specific dream workshop or exchange, which is going to be more time consuming, but this will give us probably a foundation or a platform to talk further on it.
Okay, great. Since you mentioned about collective unconscious, a lot of people ask about the connection between dreams and past life. So where people ask that whether dreams can be a channel to retrieve data about the past life. So what is your take on that?
Okay. Firstly, I think with all humility, I must express that I'm not somebody who is trained or equipped to talk about past life, psychology or theory. But from the psychoanalytic model, when we talk about associations, we are actually trying to look at our past associations, experiences, which I am not sure how the past life or the school of thought would look at it, but definitely we are looking at past experiences from this present life, which we may not consciously recall, but it may stay at the peripheral level or at various associations that through verbalization finds its way of expression. So this is how probably I would look at from the psychoanalytic school. And I'm sorry that I will not be able to directly respond from the past life theory.
So is there any huge difference in the way Freud and Jung approached dream interpretation? Because, in Jungian, the interpretation or the process of psychoanalysis itself was coming from a completely different domain altogether. So what is your take on that?
Once again, it's my individual thoughts, with all humility, with my limited reading of both of them, but effort to keep reading them. I think what distinctly came about is Jung's engagement with society, with culture, with mythological contexts. Whereas when we look at Freud or his dream work, when we are looking at, it has been more the individual's journey of free associations, of the same probably links making, but more the individual's journey and how the individual intrapsychic pattern may work. I would like to think that they both kind of fed each other. I mean, they're both schools of thought rather than individuals, which has helped to understand the dream process and I would say the construction of the dreams, rather than getting into a debate of who is right and who is not right, or who is more prevalent, who is not. I think it's quite complementary to the evolution of the dream process. I think, for example, when we are looking at, let's say, there's a huge change of associations which is happening to life and death across the world, particularly after the COVID situation in the last 2 years. And I think this is very significant to even understand perhaps what kind of changes or nuances may take place in our mourning processes. And every culture, and here when I'm talking about every culture or country, I'm also keeping in mind the socioeconomic structure of looking at how death has impacted in the last 2 years, will have its relevance to the mourning processes, to death, and in juxtaposition to that, to life itself, to our command over life. So I think a a quality of flux is very important that needs to be integrated, and which is probably getting integrated when we are looking at psychoanalytic evolutionary development in dream processes. So symbols would change. It's not that they would become diametrically opposite, but they have their process of changing. So this was a way of trying to relate to what you're saying, how they may differ. So in a way, my individual journey with the what kind of losses I may have encountered, or what kind of positive exchanges I have encountered in these last 2 years, have also something to do with the entire health system, the socioeconomic system, the cultural rituals of death practiced. So it is much more at the intersectional positioning that I see today's psychoanalysis.
Okay, that's
and
great.
Dreams are a part of that, definitely, very, very strongly.
Okay, so to some extent, whatever happens outside definitely have an impact on our dream experience also, right? So here in this context, how there's a question where what's the connection between, is there any connection, or how is it linked, especially the trauma that you face on a regular day, how is it linked with your dream? Is there any how is it reflected to some extent? Yeah.
Trauma, when we experience trauma, like I'm giving time and again the reference of COVID, because it's something that all of us as a community, as a global situation, have experienced, and very recently. So we all will be able to recall situations of trauma, situations of loss. So it'll be easier for us perhaps to relate. When we experience that kind of an overwhelming situation, we need dreams unconsciously once again, and that is the magic of the entire mechanism of human mental life. We need dreams to help us to work out that overwhelming state of trauma while we are at our sleeping state, when we are in a completely surrendering state, so that when we are in a conscious state and we are dealing with reality and that particular situation, we will be probably able to deal it somewhat in a much more realistic manner, and not get overwhelmed with the symbolic impact that the situation of trauma may have impacted on me. So that is the exact link that we can hold. Also, through dreams, as we can understand right away, we try to resolve unresolved states of mind, emotions. And that is once again the wonder of the mental mechanism, that the effort to resolve these unresolved conflicts or states of mind is when we are in a much more surrendering state, when we are sleeping, when our consciousness is not at huge alertness, and we allow the mechanism, that internal flow of thoughts and associations, to try and work it out while we are still sleeping. A lot of the times we don't get time to process, so dreams help us at times to process. But in the same breath, I would like to also say that when the situation, a reality situation like the COVID, becomes so overwhelming, the dreams, though they are trying to help us to process certain overwhelming states of mind, it can still become a very, very anxiety-driven journey. And that's when we understand that the mind needs a support from external resources, that the individual process of working through is not enough. It is seeking help, seeking support.
Okay. Yeah. So here, when we talk about symbols, dream symbols and all, how far the generalizability of symbols possible? because of the difference in the culture, the socioeconomic differences, so all those things.
I think it is, I mean, sometimes symbols are there. I mean, symbols are there, not sometimes, and they do have a commonality. And the commonality is a guiding principle, I would say, rather than a strict notion that we should go by. And I keep talking about this is one of my favorite examples, like in the Hindu rituals that we practice, the symbol of the Nazi symbol, if we recall the visual, is considered, at least for West Bengal, most of us, West Bengal Hindus, it is considered as a very, very sacred symbol, which we use with red on, metals and on stones, for any auspicious religious practice. Now that is naturally the swastika, yes, absolutely, like somebody said here. This is obviously not the same association that probably a person who has experienced, Second World War situation, or who comes from a Jewish background, would see it in that way. So that the swastic symbol to us can have a positive element, something very constructive and pure. It can be blasphemous a thought to somebody who has seen the atrocities of that symbol. So definitely culture, political context, all of that has its very strong impact in our free associations. And thus, every individual journey of our free associations has a very complex dialectic.
Okay, yeah. So in the dream interpretation itself, in the last 100 years, if you look at the research from consciousness, cognitive neuroscience, neurology and all, a lot of understanding, a lot of clarity about sleep, clarity about dream, the science behind it have come up, right? So is there any change, or is there any modification done in the interpretation frame of dreams also in the last
I think, of course, the last couple of minutes, the few questions we are trying to address is talking about the changes of looking at dreams. But the specific intervention of neurosciences, as you say, is that it's definitely giving us much more clarity in terms of when dreams occur, in terms of rapid eye movement. That's always been there. It's bringing us more clarity, treatment of certain maybe sleeping disorders like sleeping apnea, or these kind of treatments are finding much more clarity. But I'm not so sure what kind of content clarity we are coming to. But once again, which is wonderful to see, is that an effort towards an integrated perspective that is looking at dreams rather than this school of thought and that school of thought, because it's much more important that we understand what is happening with the dreams, or with the human agency creating the dreams, making the dreams. That has become much more important than the school of thought of treatment. And I think that is a phenomenal development for the whole science of it. So the content, I am not sure, could definitely, given my limited knowledge of it, but I think there is more to be worked and researched through in the content process of it. And I think another way of, as we look at neuroscientific intervention into psychoanalysis, I think psychoanalysis also needs to be integrated into neuroscientific discourses, so that we can engage ourselves into the content analysis, the material of it, understanding what prompts the other stories, it's the narrative patterns. As much as we're looking into possibilities of complementary research modules of qualitative and quantitative processes, I think these are wonderful possibilities which have evolved currently.
So there are a lot of parapsychological explanations, links with dreams also. Other people always say that recurrent dreams are kind of predicting something, that something bad going to happen, or those kind of. So what is your take on?
Yeah, recurring dreams is, as I was saying a while back, dreams are in an effort, um, to try to look for resolutions of unresolved conflicts. So the recurring dream is with the attempt to look at a possible resolution till it finds a point of, let's say, status quo, that it can let go of the recurrence. So recurrent dreams is indirectly probably giving us a clue, a hint that, you have to give me more attention. I still need more attention. Something needs to be worked out. It's still in the process. It hasn't happened. That's how recurring dreams. But in terms of what you said, when I dream something, which means either something is going to happen or something has already happened, and I'm dreaming about it. It has happened somewhere else. I didn't know, but I dreamt about it. No, I really don't know how to answer that, but I think I would like to take refuge of Freud and what he said about the power of the unconscious probably is such that unconscious determinism, that I will, willy-nilly, knowingly, unknowingly, may work it out that way, not consciously. But if I dream something or the other will take me there. So that's why I think dreams become an interesting pathway, because it almost seems like a detective mind at play. So if I dreamt of something, and then let's say I dreamt of somebody beautiful or something beautiful in my life happening, or a volcanic eruption, and it happens in the next couple of days or hours. According to the school of thought that I come from, one would tend to think that there is a psychic determinism working somewhere which will lead me to that. But of course, I do understand that we have all kinds of practitioners and schools of thought, and I value all of that. I would say that if somebody does believe that if I dream something, which means it comes true, and that's the power of my dreaming capacity, I respect that quality. But as an analyst, from my analytic point of view, I would like to see it as a psychic determining process, and also to be able to see the human agency's quest for having this kind of omnipotency. So there are many areas of exploring the human mind when we tend to think like this.
Okay. But there is also another question which asks whether is it possible for multiple people having the same dream?
I think exactly point to point, it may not happen, but we do share similar dreams. If I say things like, let's say, failing in an examination, I'm absolutely sure all of us have dreamt about it, or falling from a cliff or a mountain, or losing a tooth. Out of how many of us are here right now? 88. I'm sure at least 50 of us have dreamt all of this at different junctures in our life, maybe not at the same time, maybe not exactly the same imageries, because our own associations, imageries, visualizations differ, but there are certain common aspects, like I'm sure at this point with the COVID situation, most of us have had dreams of death, or could involve dead bodies or symbolic representations of death, but something to do with death and decay. Possibly, I'm not saying that, but most of us may have, because we've been dealing with this situation so strongly, and we've all somehow or the other have had friends or families affected by this pandemic situation, our own lives affected by the pandemic situation,
okay.
The lockdown situation.
Yeah. So we'll ask the participants to directly ask questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll unmute you. Harneet, you have a question, right? Okay, Chitrang.
Yes. Hello, sir. Hi, ma'am. So my question is that, like, since we're talking about exploration of the human mind, so like, what's your take on the use of lucid dreaming to use that capacity to explore the various like facets of the unconscious?
Thank you, Chitrang. I'll try to respond the way I understand lucid dreams. I think lucid dreams have quite a wonderful quality where we want to linger in that lucid state. And lucid dreams have a very, I would say, pleasant quality, which we, present sensual quality, which we want to linger on. So that is something we are almost in a semi-conscious state, and we sometimes allow it to stay like in a half state of waking up self. We have certain imageries and it feels so good that we linger on it and we allow it to continue in our visual mind, but we are also almost aware of maybe the early hours or sound around us, life around us. Lucid dreams, I suppose, may not necessarily happen at a deep sleep moments.
Yes, Kaushalya.
Good evening, ma'am. I have this problem with dreams. I've been having this problem with dreams many years now. And my problem is that even before I can consciously go to sleep, even when I'm, say, in my drowsy state, my dream sequence starts. It could be anything, but the effect is that when I wake up in the morning, I am so unrested. I'm so tired. I don't have that full feeling of, have slept. And even while I'm about to go to sleep, I know I'm still a little unconscious. Still in a little semi-conscious state. And my dreams start. And I know that I'm dreaming. So that is my problem.
Okay.
Why is this happening? And is there any way that I can avoid this? And help me with my problem.
Kaushalya, firstly, I really want to thank you for sharing your problem with all of us. It's a very brave, courageous thing to do. I'll try to respond, Kaushalya. I'm though not sure if I can completely satisfy you. You said, obviously, your problem is the dream, which means you're not enjoying this playful material, which essentially the quality of dreams imply, which means they're happening too much. As you said, the moment you're about to sleep, they start working and you're also aware of it. So which means probably it is asking us, your dreams are almost a hint to us saying that please take care of all that is happening inside my head. which means probably there's a lot happening inside our waking up hours. Maybe we don't have time to process them, to go through them, to sort them out. Maybe also when there's a lot of things that we have to do. Let's say we have to sit for an exam, or we have a crisis at home, or we have to get ready to let's say sit for an interview. So which means there's so much happening in terms of daily life that I'm not finding time to the whole lot of stimulation in my waking up hours. And thus there's a lot of stimulation content which is waiting and looking for processing, seeping out, and they find their way through when we are sleeping. It could also be that I'm also a kind of person, knowingly, unknowingly, who perhaps is not so much, who does not like or enjoy being engaged consciously with thought processes and, want to take care of A, B, C, D situations. By nature, I would like to, maybe defer looking at them, avoid looking at them. They all kind of, in a way, store up. I could also be, another aspect of me could be that, though in spite of the fact I say that, I have a problem and I can't sleep, but I may also at the same time, in the same breath, enjoy the, visual imageries, the element of almost addictive hallucinatory element when we are dreaming. So there could be many possibilities, Kaushalya, why this is happening. So it will not be possible for me to respond exactly the way and help you in this situation, but maybe you could think over what we said and see what works for you, and at least start engaging in that process. I'm sure it will happen. We can find ways of at least finding the pleasanter ways of the dreaming process, and not the be engaged with the unpleasant process. As you said, it's becoming a problem.
Thank you. Harneet?
Hello. Yes, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is that about 4 years back, my son was in 8th standard. He had a lot of bullying experience in his school and through other boys. After that, he had a dream which was very much persistent for years. Like he could see a scary dog in his dream every night, which he had seen in some cartoon movie or something. But then for years and years, he could not sleep alone in his room. He was very much upset because of this dream. Could you help me out, ma'am, in this?
I think, Harneet, it's actually what you said. I'm firstly very, very sorry that your son had to go through this kind of a situation in school, and most painful and unacceptable that we continue to have such things in our lives. But it's probably related directly to what you said about him being bullied in school, because we, once again, we unconsciously, unknowingly try to make symbolic imageries of what probably happens in reality. So when somebody is bullying me, to be able to handle that reality, because your son, I believe, must have had to continue going back to the school, must have had to continue maintaining his exchange with the classmates, and probably even continued, unfortunately, with the bullying, unless there was a strong intervention. So to be able to handle that and to repeatedly go back, I think he needed to, in a way, I would say, dilute a little bit, of the image of the bullying boys to maybe a dog, which is less maybe fearful. I don't know. That could be, we have to see his associations, whether he likes dogs or not, or whether he liked dogs or not, or whether he found dogs to be very, very scary, and thus the equivalence. But it could also be that he diluted the human image of the bullies to the animal image, which is easier for me to deal with. And my intrapsychic mind is taken up more with this handling of this situation than of the reality situation. So it was, in a way, diverting my psychic energy. But it's not possible to be able to say this directly, Harneet, because what was happening at that time to your son and how the dream was helping him to cope with this, to work with his reality situation. How was he ending the dream? Because as we talked about it, if it's a recurring dream, which means he's trying to, through the dreaming process, he's trying to resolve this conflict. And we will also need to see how he was handling the reality situation of bullying, and how the dream resolution and the bullying resolution, or the dissolution of the bullying situation finally happened. But perhaps they may have a linking journey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And now it's just stopped this year. He suffered for 4 years, but 2-3 years he suffered. Now this year, no dreams are coming, and even he's not scared of those boys now. So mostly, I think it was interlinked. You're right.
I'm so glad that he has been able to overcome those boys, and he goes to the same school. And
he left that school, ma'am. We had to change the environment.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
so much, ma'am.
Thank you for being your support to your son, and please convey him my regards and wishes for what he handled.
Dr. Jhuma, there's another question about, is there any rational reason for having recurrent deja vu experiences?
I'm sure, I don't know about rational. Rational is not oppositional to irrational, according to psychoanalysis.
Recent, I would say. I think.
Recent, okay, recent. Recent recurring deja vu, right?
The reason for recurrent
the reason for recurring deja vu. As we all know over here, so deja vu is almost, of course, when I'm feeling like it's reality-like. So something must have happened in the past, or either have experienced or seen or recollection, and then I see something or experience, and it seems like, oh, I've gone through it before. So it's must have been, almost reality matching. In a generic way, if I can respond, is which means my experiences, my sensations, my associations of this context that I'm feeling is a deja vu, must have been so powerful with something that is linking up that I've experienced before. So the experience, the state of mind that I'm in, the experiential state of being that I'm in, may be the same. And not necessarily the exact situation, replica of the situation, but which probably prompts us that I need to talk about it. The intensity is so powerful that I need to talk about it. There could be a possibility that one would like to link this with past life, but not necessarily with my school of thought, not necessarily would we be seeing it in association with the past life, but definitely with very strong past experiences or states of being. One could also, I'm not sure if this is the right platform to be able to talk about it, but just to touch upon it, certain dissociative processes could be linked up with the state of deja vu that we talk about. But I think that is going to take us to deeper and longer exchanges. And this platform may not be enough time for us to get into.
Understand. Yashika. Yashika, please unmute Yashika.
Hi, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hi. Ma'am, I just have this one question, that what could be the reason people see dead people in their dreams? And like dead and unknown all of a sudden. So I have this one dream analysis with me, like dream case with me. So the person saw like a lot of people at the one time. Half of them were alive and half of them were like dead. And they had no connection with the person who saw the dream. So, and in general as well, what could be the reason for a person to see any dead person in the dream?
I'm not sure, Ashika, if my response is going to satisfy you, but when we are talking about seeing dead people in the dream, you know, is he recognizing the faces, or they're just dead bodies? Those things we need to understand, because to see faces in the dream may have associations with people that I know, or have just passed by, or blurred imageries of faces, or to be able to see just, you know, dead bodies, not necessarily faces, but bodies which are dead and not alive. So we'll have to see what kind of you know, associations he brings up at that point, what he or she was going through in terms of whether he or she has experienced any deadness, you know, any dead person, or death in the family, or deadness in a relationship, or deadness in himself or herself, or fear of death, or terrible negativity. So there are many wide ranges of it. So it'll be difficult to say that, you know, one particular reason why this happened, unless we know the person's various associations, individual associations. And this is where we can actually link up to something that Dr. Ginny, you asked in the beginning regarding Freud and Jung. So this is the individual associations where we need. So Freud has its very, very, his school, you know, had his very, very strong point of emphasis of the individual association and journey, as much as Jung had later on of a collective association. Also, when we are talking about, you know, what this means as such to the person, we'll have to go back to the narrative of the person rather than Dr. Ginny and myself, we've had occasion to work before, and he knows that I always start a dream session saying the little that we've exchanged, that I failed to interpret the dream. So in this kind of a context, without knowing the person's individual journey, it'll be impossible to say what the dream means. We can only touch upon the various possibilities that may be there because of the symbolic elements that come out from the dream. But what actually is it defining in him? And it's trying to, you know, symbolize in his narratives. It depends completely on the individual's association.
So,
hi, can I go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Ginny sir and your Dost for organizing this, and thanks, Jhuma ma'am, for giving really candid answers in this question answer format. It's really interactive. So my question is this: I get dreams many times, And, as a result of dream, the situation that I see myself, I see that, I have some feeling about it, right? I feel embarrassed sometimes because I feel sad sometimes, and those are unreal, right? After that, dream gets over, then I sleep for another few hours. And when I wake up, I have no recollection of the dream. On some days, I do recollect certain scenes, but I'm not able to write it, so that I can tell it to any psychoanalyst. Should I, if I wake up, should I just write it on my mobile, etc.? I fear that because, in the night, I don't want to open my mobile, right? Because rays will harm my eyes. You can see my glasses. So I don't know, if it is possible for me to, interpret dreams myself, or, work with this psychologist or psychoanalyst to, analyze them, or this is just not for me. I should look for some other avenues of with psychologists.
No,
So,
not
does it happen to others?
necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, psychologists are no magicians, and they are not the greatest answers in the world at all. I think if you want to understand your dreams, you're already in the pathway. Let's say if you can't remember them, okay, I would say that don't trouble yourself so much, which means what is the purpose of the dream? The purpose of the dream is that they are trying to work out something which is, which needs to be processed, which needs to be resolved. So if you don't remember, which means jolly well, they've done their job, let them go now.
Okay.
But if one is engaged and one wants to know how my mind works, or like we encourage our candidates who are into understanding dreams, or even myself, you can keep, instead of a phone, I mean, it's your generation, you keep a phone. We can keep a pencil and a paper, or a pen and a paper. And even in the darkness, just scribble something. And in the morning, wake up and look at your scribble. If you're really interested and want to stay engaged in that process of what I'm thinking, what I'm dreaming, and then reflect. And it can become, it's like we write our journals, so you can have a dream journal. So, and a dream journal can be a creative way of writing. Instead of sitting and writing in light, I lie down and write half sleep. So I encourage my students, some of them who have done the workshops or are engaged in this, I encourage them to record creatively, maybe. We will find our ways. There is no one set avenue. I think I would like to break away from all those ways of this is the way to do it. I believe I do not know the way. I know only many ways. Who knows? You will teach me a wonderful way. See what works for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Some of the questions are repeated, but I have a question here where she asked that she's having frequent dreams where she's saving her family members from violent attacks. Sometimes they are very violent and gore, and she's a very calm person, and these dreams really disturb her.
Okay. Firstly, before I respond to that, I think one of the reasons why I find it very difficult to do dream sessions online, even offline to do dream sessions in a larger number, because dreams talk about most of the times very deeper deeper selves of us. It brings out much deeper selves of our intrapsychic mind, and we must all stay committed to each other in this session. So we don't take material out and talk about, he said that and he said this. So we don't become judgmental, and we we don't lose our confidentiality. So though here a lot of us are sharing our own dreams, maybe later on you can share your own dream by saying that my friend said this or my cousin said this, so that nobody knows whose dream it is. The confidentiality stays. And the way I will try to respond is also in a very general way. So not really saying this is who you are or what it is. And besides, I wouldn't know, as I told you. So coming back to responding to your dream, and saving our family. This is once again can be a possibility that we all may share, just like we may all share at different junctures in our life, dreaming our parents dying or killing our parents. Similarly, we may dream that we are saving our parents. We may also dream where we fear a child is dying, or even more anxiety provoking that I'm killing my child. So these are not very unusual dreams at all. It doesn't make us, quote unquote, I don't know, I have a problem or something, nothing like that. Our mind is very, very vast, and it's complex. So when you're dreaming about your parents, something happening and you're saving them. So some basic aspects of a dream, very, very basic. A dream usually is a wish fulfillment. That's what they say. Of course, the next question would be when I'm dreaming of, a nightmare, what is the wish fulfillment? We will not go there, because the wish fulfillment there could be a very, very indirect means, not a direct. When I'm dreaming that a fairy is coming me, or let's say Prince Charles is saving me, that's a very direct, straightforward, wish fulfillment. But here, let's say there could be a wish fulfillment that you want to save your parents, which is wonderful. To think that I can have a wish that I want to kill my parents can be very, very disturbing. So what other wishes it fulfilling? Or maybe through this I'm fulfilling my need to be punished. So there are many layers to it. It's sometimes very simple, sometimes a little complex. We'll need to see why this need is happening, where is it coming from. It could be your own generous persona. It could be your own generous persona, or your parents being not very, let's say, conducive, and they have lots of fights and they are in conflict. They often seem to be very, very childlike, where they should be saving you, you are saving them. Or it can have many other complex layers. We'll have to see what, again, your associations take us. Dreams, as most of us over here know, that they have, a manifest level and a latent level. So the manifest are, clues that give us ways and avenues to try and reach the latent. And the latent is possible through the avenues and clues of associations to get there. So just like symptoms protect us from certain vulnerabilities, similarly, our dreams also protect us from certain vulnerabilities. Our manifest associations of dreams, imageries of dreams, may be protecting us from latent vulnerabilities. So we'll need to unfold all of.
Already 6 now, so we'll take, I think, 3 more questions. Already 3 people have raised their hands.
3 more? Okay, I'll try to be brief.
Aishwarya, your question?
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, my question is that I continuously in my dreams end up seeing a place, like irrespective of whatever the sequence is, the place is always there in the background. So may I know what does it signify if I keep seeing the place constantly in my dream every day?
My friend, I'm not sure if it's the same place, which means whether you have seen that place before, we don't know. It can be a completely fantasy place. It can be a reality space where you have more and more very deeper connections. Maybe that space is your anchor. Maybe that space is where you aspire to go. Maybe that space, it depends how you're waking up from the dream. Is that space giving you the same feeling every time, or does it change? The space remains the same, but it changes, the feeling changes. Once again, as you can see, it's very difficult to talk about what dreams mean like this, unless we take up a little bit of a personal journey to understand those dreams. And that is why it is very difficult to have a dream online session. And as I said, even with the offline, it is a very close-knit group where we need to stay committed with each other, because the content that will come up is very, very confidential. It's not about it being disturbing, but it's very confidential. It's very own. It's coming from my deeper associations and self. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this is going to help. Yashika, was that, or have I got the wrong name? Aishwarya, sorry. But this is the best that I'm being able to do in this platform to your dream. Pardon me.
Thank you, ma'am. Maybe I'll try to introspect hereafter onwards so I can get a deeper insight, maybe.
Lovely.
I'll work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I need short.
Last question, yeah. Only, ma'am, one thing I want to ask, like if a person dreams and he can remember each and every small thing, like a movie, every dream, and there's some people who can't remember anything, what is the difference?
As I was saying a while back to our young friend here who said that sometimes he doesn't remember the dreams when he wakes up in the morning. So I think that's all right. If, the purpose of the dream has been worked through, it's okay. But it's also something, it's a mental mechanism, right? It's a mental exercise. So it's not like, we are born with a talent that we will remember the dream. It's something we have to cultivate to be able to remember, that I want to remember. The consciousness that I work on, the three layers of my different states of mind that I work in, my engagement on cultivating this conscious mind, that's how it'll help me to remember those aspects of dream. But a lot of the times when we are listening to dreams and he or she says, I distinctly remember I went right and then I went left and I saw this big door and then I saw this window. With all due respect and understanding, there could be a reality to it that he or she did. Of course, a dream is reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't wake up with physical feelings like that. But also, sometimes they try to hide something with so much of distinct, right, left specifications. Maybe they're trying to bypass something which I don't want to specify. So we'll once again, we'll have to get into a journey to be able to understand what is the purpose. And it's not always the same. I can have the same associations of right, left, and the same kind of specifying details in my dream. But 6 months later, the need to specify would be completely different. It depends on my mental journey.
Last question, Chitrang.
Yes, thank you, sir, for letting me have this opportunity. So, ma'am, this is my question that, like, some people say that they remember a lot of their dreams and some people say that they don't dream at all. So, like, if someone says that they actually remember a lot of their dreams, so, like, what does that indicate about their, consciousness? Does that say that, like, they have a greater level of awareness or alertness? And another part of that question is that, does that indicate anything about the metacognitive ability of that human being?
I would like to imagine that it may have implications to the metacognitive element, but without a hierarchical greater and lesser. So if somebody remembers a dream, doesn't necessarily mean he or she has a greater and thus better and desired state of metacognitive state, and somebody who doesn't, which means is a lesser and thus a fallen being, not necessarily, but it may have a certain implication. But it is also, once again, depends on the mind, as I said, it's quite a magical and interesting thing, you know. So we'll have to see why I remember and why I don't remember. And that is very important to be able to decipher. And as I was saying a while back, to be able to even remember dreams, I have to want it, to engage in the practice of remembering dreams. And what is the purpose? Why do I want to remember? So that I can say that I have a quote unquote higher cognitive level and I'm more engaged in consciousness. What is it leaving me with? If it's leaving me with a peace of mind and I don't remember dreams, it's okay. Let's let it go. It's all right. Maybe it has served its purpose and we need to let it go. If it's something which is troubling me, I want to remember, but I can't. What's happening? Then I'll have to be engaged. That's something which I want to remember, but maybe simultaneously I don't want to remember. It's an ambivalent state of, you know, wish and a wish against it. So it's an interesting journey, I can say, Chitra. And there is no final and last word, probably, at least for me.
Thank you, Dr. Jhuma. I think that, like I said in the very beginning, that it's a beginning. So we are. Last workshop was in 2014 or 15.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, we had to postpone some of our programs. Hopefully we'll be able to have more sessions with you offline.
I look forward to that, Dr. Jenny. Thank you.
The longer terms, term programs like psychoanalysis and dream interpretation. So I thank you, Dr. Jhuma, for being for accepting our invitation and
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jenny, for
as usual.
And, thank you.
And thank you all. Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
So looking forward for more such sessions in the future, Dr. Jhuma, and all of us, all of you for being here and for being constant support for this initiative. Thank you once again, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.